Bro, did you see Donald Trump's name was in the Epstein files like 30,000 times? I know, right? They not like us. They not like us. They not like us. Dude, did you see Diddy's in jail for human trafficking and beating his girlfriend? I heard that like prosecuting him was a long and hard process. Long and hard process? You're such a Diddy blood. He Diddy blood, he Diddy blood, he Diddy blood. Israel's killed like 80,000 people. It's insane. Oh, I know. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Oh, yeah. Oh, this coffee tastes so bad. Netanyahu, if you can hear me, kill the person who made my coffee. Growing up consuming the amount of Spider-Man content that I've did, it's no surprise that in awkward situations, I, just like Spider-Man, will put in horribly timed jokes to try to ease the tension, try to make the situation less awkward. And sure, I've had people tell me that my jokes haven't landed or I just said some shit that sounded way better in my head. But I always justify it by saying, hey, this is not a sincere belief that I hold. I don't sincerely believe that this is a lighthearted subject. This is just my way of alleviating the stress and being able to digest the situation. And this has been the attitude that I've chosen to adopt in my adult life whenever I come across situations that are really tense and stressful. And I'm sure a lot of other people take on irony as their coping mechanism in tough times. But can there be too much irony? I've taken a look around me and how the general zeitgeist takes on global pressing issues. And when I go online to, read about the zeitgeist's opinions and their discussions on every single issue at hand, I find less discussion and more people just making jokes and talking about the situations with irony and making light of very serious situations. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Again, it's a very valid way of coping with hard times, but it's a problem when it's all you can find. And sometimes it feels like when bad shit is going on, people, instead of having conversations about the who, what, where, when, why, how, they're more like in a writer's room online to figure out what meme format best fits the situation so that they can get a viral joke off. This has led to what many call irony poisoning, the phenomenon where a person consumes or shares so much ironic and detached humor online that they lose the ability to distinguish between a joke and what their actual beliefs are. How do we get here? How do we stop it? Should we even stop it? Is Israel using bot accounts to target the general population to sedate them, just like how the CIA used crack in the 80s on black neighborhoods? All that and more today on the Ali channel.
Why so serious?
To expand upon my point about irony, I think it's important to just, lay down the foundation of what I talk about when I talk about irony and its effects in like hard conversations. See, tragedy and comedy go hand in hand since the dawn of time. I mean, dude, back in the medieval times, jesters used to be able to use comedy to bring pressing political issues that the monarchy was facing to the king, and it's only because of that comedic environment that he presented the issues in that the king wouldn't crucify or banish the jester for questioning the king's authority or judgment on things. During slavery, humor was a survival tool used by slaves amongst each other as a coping mechanism. It would help them build community through shared trauma and take subtle jabs at their slave masters. Irony plays a vital role in being able to have a conversation on certain subjects when the subject is dark, morbid, and twisted. Sprinkle on a little bit of comedy and suddenly conversations that people really don't want to talk about can become more digestible. And a lot of the times, comedy is used to cope with the gravitas of particularly challenging topics and situations. So when does it become a bad thing? Well, you can blame the internet. Hey, if you're enjoying this video so far, please like, follow, subscribe, all that. Also, please follow me on my social media at alihasacoolusername. I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and now back to the video. Mwah. Bye-bye. Why do a lot of people never pursue a career in comedy? It's because there's things to lose. There's stakes in making jokes that are ass. Think about it. Insert bad joke. Boo, where are the tomatoes? Where are the tomatoes? People used to hurl tomatoes at people on stage. Even if people didn't give a reaction and the room was silent, that shit would probably hurt. I mean, like, look at the SpongeBob meme. Now imagine if there was a way for you to be on stage 24/7 while being completely anonymous, where only your good jokes get traction, and if you do it for long enough, the room that you're in gets curated so that only people who like you and your type of humor are in it. what I just described to you is the internet. The internet has unleashed the floodgate of people's opinions and jokes, whether it be good or bad. With that, jokes have taken on a new potent life form in the form of memes. Forget joke books and comedy shows. Most people nowadays take in their comedy through memes. Tung sahur is real comedy. Brain rot is bad, but I'd argue, dude, if you were around during the early days of the internet, people would make jokes literally about anything. 9/11, Columbine, Ebola. I mean, I'll take that back. People were making fucking jokes about George Floyd like 5 years ago. I got a George Floyd meme from this weird ass coworker of mine in 2026, by the way. On the internet, any mass tragedy can and will be the subject of people's jokes. And based off of everything that I just mentioned in my prior points, I don't think this is a bad thing. You know, comedy can be a coping mechanism for a lot of people who are experiencing the travesties. And I think it's also a bit unfair if you decide to remove someone's ability to laugh at something just because you don't personally find it funny, because then you're removing the ability for that person to process their grief or process the tragedy in their own way. But let's remove the giant scale of the internet and try to make the situation that plays out online in an in-person setting, and tell me if this is not at least a bit weird, okay? Imagine if you're in a cafe with like 20 other people and there's a TV that's playing the news and a huge tragedy happens. You have a bunch of people talking about it, but then there's like two guys who can't stop laughing. Sure, you look at them once being like, okay, maybe it's just like a weird reaction, but if they keep laughing and they don't take like a serious moment to be like, what the fuck, they would be considered weird as hell, bro. And a stranger phenomenon is I've noticed that on the internet, it seems like more people on that cafe would be the ones laughing instead of having serious discussions about it. Now imagine how weird that would be. A tragedy playing out on the big screen in a cafe and everyone's giggling and gaggling. You would almost start falling into like this hysteria of like, what the hell is even going on? Why am I watching? Why are people finding this so funny? Is it not that serious? And listen, you might giggle too, just out of like the awkwardness of the situation. Also, remember when I mentioned the anonymity that comes with the internet? Well, what if you took off the masks of all the people who were laughing in the cafe, and next thing you know, like a Scooby-Doo villain, you saw an IDF soldier, and you realized the people who are laughing are all part of the IDF. Does that sound crazy? Sure, but it's really happening. The IDF strategically uses meme culture to sedate people and their opinions on a lot of things, like Epstein and Palestine, which is really fucked up. And now suddenly it's not so funny anymore when you find out that the ha-has are a fucking government psyop to cover the fact that they're committing great atrocities. It feels like the government's laughing to your face that they're getting away with what they're doing. So we understand now that the internet has exacerbated comedy and irony in regular everyday rhetoric, and how there's like a boost online of ironic memes and jokes about serious situations that is artificial, and it's by bots who are funded by governments with agendas. Does that mean we have a moral obligation to stop joking about serious things as to not diminish them? Is our laughing inadvertently helping an oppressor? Well, yes and no. Let me explain. I'm about to say something super fucking pretentious. You ready? One of my favorite philosophers, Soren Kierkegaard, warned us about the exact trap that we're facing right now in the internet era, all the way back in 1841. Speaking on irony, Kierkegaard argued that while irony is a great tool for destroying outdated social norms and exposing hypocrisy, it becomes dangerous when it's never turned off. I bring up this because he pointed out something almost 200 years ago that I think is very important for us to consider, and that's how much irony we consume when talking about these subjects. The ratio as to how much someone is ironic versus serious. I pointed out a bunch of ways how irony has served as a positive benefit in society by making hard conversations more digestible, and it's not just fair to write off irony or comedy as something crude and distasteful. But also, too much of it is proven to be a bad thing, and it can literally irony poison you into becoming detached and having confused feelings on like how serious and how crazy and detrimental some things are. And this is why I bring my salt analogy. I think irony is exactly like salt. Conversation, like a dish, without any salt or irony can be bland, boring, and tough to swallow. You sprinkle a healthy amount on it, next thing you know, the conversation's appetizing. It goes from being a chore to being something engaging to digest in. But just like salt, you do too much, and next thing you know, you're going to develop hypernatremia, or like the overconsumption of sodium in your body. That can cause neurological damage, brain swelling. And people don't know this, but you can OD on salt with just like a few tablespoons. Irony is fatal emotionally, just like how salt is physically fatal. Because by having just too many tablespoons of irony, just like Kierkegaard mentioned, you start developing an emotional distance from everything. Nothing retains any objective value. The ironist eventually becomes trapped in a state of terminal boredom and existential emptiness because they refuse to commit to anything sincerely. So no, I'm not saying don't be ironic in difficult conversations, because that would be stupid, and that would be not fun, and that would be boring, and that would be not productive, which is the most important thing at the end of the day. But I would say if you're talking about anything amongst yourself or with your friends or with your peers, notice the makeup of the conversation. How much of this pie that you're talking about is like serious conversation versus how much of it is ironic? And I'd say if you find that a majority of the time you guys are just cracking jokes, take a step back being like, wait, are we losing the plot a bit? Are we not realizing that like this is a huge serious problem? Also, how did I get like this? Is there a foreign entity influencing my decision? Maybe it's the media that I'm consuming online. I know social media is not good for me. I didn't know it was this fucked up. Outside of direct politics, I see this in real life in like the general culture. And I mean, politics influences the general culture. So I think it goes hand in hand, but I've noticed people being like apathetic, people being ironic and like irony pilled. Like people can only enjoy certain media if they're all in on this like one big joke. And I think we should all start asking, when did becoming genuine and sincere be a problem? And is anyone gaining from us not wanting to be genuine and sincere? Who stands to gain from us being emotionally detached from our everyday? And I think when you start to realize that your sincerity, both in politics and in your personal life, is getting attacked and is being strategically targeted, then I think you're going to naturally come to the conclusion that you got to fight to be sincere and fight to be genuine in protest to keep your humanity. So let's not remove irony completely, but let's also not overdose on the salt. This has been Ali. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and listen to my music. New video out next week. Take care.